Hi everybody, today we're going to be making a small knife for my wife and a hot cut chisel. I'll explain more about that in a minute. But in the meantime, why don't you go ahead, grab yourself a cup of coffee, tea, beer, whatever suits your fancy, and I'll see you when you get back.
So the first thing we need to do in this project is to take these pieces of suspension coil and straighten them out. What I'm making here, as I told you before, is a small knife for my wife. Actually, it's supposed to be a kind of finish blade called a Puukko. This is a utility blade made by the Sami people in northern Finland and parts of Norway and Sweden as well. Um, really interesting culture. They're basically like the Basques of Scandinavia. It's really, really cool. Um, but yeah, making that knife, and then the other project is a hot cut chisel. The hot cut chisel is to help me cut hot pieces of metal, just like it sounds. Um, what makes it different from a regular wood chisel is that I'm going to use two bevels instead of just one, and I am going to um, not put as sharp an edge on there as I would a wood chisel. See, this cuts by spreading the metal out, not by slicing through it, right? Which I guess is exactly how a wood chisel cuts. But anyway, hot metal won't need something as sharp as wood would. Wood. Either way. Um, yeah, a hot cut chisel. It'll be useful for other things later, like when I go to make the steel cap for for this knife, and on either end, really. So I'm gonna try for a hidden tang with this knife and the sacks that you've seen me making on Instagram and Facebook for the last little bit. Hmm. And what that is it's a full tang, just like you would see on a Western style knife, and it has it has a tang going all the way through it. Some people call this a rat tail tang. Um, but it's not visible. It's hidden inside the handle, right? So, hidden tang. Now, this video is kind of a how not to forge a knife. See, up until now, I've been squaring off this suspension piece, and that's all well and good. That's something I should be doing, but I really need to be aiming for a flat cross section, not a square cross section. Anyway, more on that in a minute. Um, yeah, the the blade here is probably just going to be set aside as a practice piece. I did learn some things from it. Um, Even without it breaking, I've kind of identified a spot where there's a lot of stresses, and I'm not happy about that, because if I keep doing that in other blades that I make later, those stresses will add up to a broken blade, and that's not good. Right here I'm forging in the chisel tip, excuse me, getting a nice fan shape on the end there. that'll let me do a lot of work, I hope. Oh yeah. The square cross-section may not have been such a bad idea really, except that it's not the most efficient way to forge a knife, right? Like, knives are thin, and I'm just saving work for later by not thinning out that blade. So, lesson learned. Back to the chisel. Still just putting that end on there, kind of drawing it out a little bit. Not much. Also, a little bit of a brag here, but that is a 3-pound hammer, which is not my normal 2-pound hammer. So, yeah, I'm graduating up to heavier hammers now. I bought that one first, and quite honestly, it wore me out within the first hour previously. And here's where I screw up first, right? Once again, haven't really flattened out that piece yet, and you saw me put in 2 indents there, which would only really need to be 1 if I were doing it the right way. And on top of that, that was a very sharp corner of that anvil, so I kind of think that I may have created a weak point there. See, right in that corner, it's going to be real easy for the metal to be brittle, especially since I'm going to harden it, and it's going to be not really good long term. Anyway, like I said, I learned a lesson, and right here, where I'm trying to flatten it some, I learned another lesson, because at some point in this process, that blade shape ended up parallel to the square instead of going from corner to corner, and that's bad because it took that stressed area, that corner, that nice brittle point where it could break easily, and it made it added some more stress to the metal. Now maybe I could sort all this out, right, by grinding in a curve there, and then normalizing really well, but I can't guarantee that with any kind of certainty, so I guess we'll just have to see what comes out of this. Anyway, on the upside, I got a good hot cut chisel out of this. Well, we'll have a good hot cut chisel. I need to finish the grinding. This here is one of the few things I did right on this blade, though. I recognize that I need to flatten it out. I didn't want it longer because this is supposed to be a small knife, really just almost like a paring knife. But it did need to be wider. So I took the sharp edge of that hammer and used that to spread the metal side to side, widening the blade instead of drawing out the length too. Anyway, yeah, so hammering that way gets it wide the way I want. And I guess you could say I learned a lesson in doing things the right way instead of, you know, just kind of winging it. Anyway, at some point I'm going to also need to put a tip on this guy. Which apparently is right now. As you can see, I'm kind of trying to pound the corners in and then guide the metal into being sharp on the point. I'm going to have to finish this on the grinder. There's just not a way to get that right with the hammer by itself. But I can do that. Another thing to note, on a blade shape, it's not really so important on something this short, but it is important. You kind of want a distal taper. What that means is it starts off kind of thick near the middle, and then toward the bottom of the handle and the tip of the blade, it gets narrower. So you saw me hammer on the very end of it for a little bit, and that was just to thin that area out. Anyway, I'm almost out of footage here. My camera kind of ran out of memory, and I need to sort that out before I film again, but that won't be too big a problem. So yeah. I didn't get a lot of work done on camera this time, but that's okay. There'll be a part 2 next week. We'll finish this up. And I will hopefully have a better video of doing the blade right. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Or maybe I can salvage this. Maybe I could give it away to someone who just wants a showpiece. It's not going to be all that pretty, to be honest. Like my 3rd blade ever, I really shouldn't be so conceited to think I'm going to make masterful pieces. But this is still a good chunk of progress for me. Lessons learned. So maybe I should hang it up somewhere just to point at and show myself, right? Anyway, coming up on the end of the video here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Yeah. Got more videos for you if you're interested in that, and I'll see you next time.